All right, hello and welcome to the next Nix Hour. If you have a question yourself, please join the meeting, and you can ask directly or send a message in the chat. So today we have Jan here asking, or he wrote a question on the issue tracker. Your name is Jan, right? I think. Yeah. So one of them is fairly kind of simple or half serious. It's built-in .split. Why is it so weird? So when you need to split a string, let's go into Nix REPL here. Nix REPL. And so how to split a string? There is built-in .split. But if you just try to use this, or let's use it and say split with a space in between. So we get hello world, we get back the two words, but there's an additional result in the middle, which is a list of the matched of the thing that was matched. And so actually this is a regex, and so you can say, well, don't just match spaces, also match let's say x's. Okay, now we say X or a space and multiple of these. All right, and now we also split the X here, and you can also extract this match. So you can say, well, I'm gonna add a parentheses around this, and now we get the match back in here. And you can also have multiple of these. So let's say we only want to match on the X itself as well. Actually, this is me that this doesn't work. Maybe that's just, yeah. But yeah, okay, this works. So I guess they can't be nested in that way. And yeah, so this is very related.
Can you drop a plus from the expression?
The square brackets or the plus?
The plus. No, just do the same thing, but without the plus.
Like this.
No, you've changed.
Well,
okay.
Sorry, I don't quite know what you mean. Yeah?
I was talking about if you add brackets into the square brackets, then it just matches brackets.
Oh, I see. I get it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Right. So if we have this, we would also be matching things like this. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so so this is very similar to the built-in .match, which also kind of does the same thing, but it just matches on the string and doesn't do the splitting. But also built-in .match adds these, so it matches the entire string, not just somewhere in the middle. So if you want to actually extract this pattern from here, you would have to do this. And this is too eager or lazy or something like that, so this doesn't quite work. I think you would have to use space. Oh yeah, I think something like this. Well, nah. Okay, well, I'm not going to look into that much more for now. But so yeah, this is split. It returns these matches in between. And so yeah, this is kind of weird. And kind of one reason for this is that it returns a list of two different types, and that is just not super great and a bit unintuitive. And then when you want to use this in any way, you need to filter for the things that you actually want. And generally what you could do is map over, or actually filter by is string. And when you do that, well, you just say built-in .filter and built-in .is string if we stay in the raw Nix world. Oh yeah, we have a comment that in the PR that introduced built-in .split, there was a discussion whether to do the interleaving. Also whether to use Perl or POSIX regex. And I think actually the regex engine is being changed, or has changed in the past as well. So that would be a good bit of trivia. So this is how we could use it, but this is a bit annoying to use, of course. And so in Nix packages, this is probably the better way to do it. There is, so let's do this. There is split string, and split string has the kind of more expected outcome. So if we do hello world here and split that, we actually get the individual words back, and the match isn't taken into account. And actually, this isn't a regex at all in here, so we cannot match on something like space or x, plus that would just not work. So it's actually a raw string, and so we'd have to do this in here. And so this would also work. Underneath, it does like a regex escaping to make sure the string here doesn't get any matches. We can also take a real brief look at this. Escape regex, I believe. Yeah. So it does escape regex, so all the characters that have any special meaning in regex get escaped here. Yeah, and right, regex, since we are talking about it, let's look at Nix briefly here. And there might be, apparently, Jan mentions there is a peer that changes, oh yeah, here, switch from std regex to boost that colon regex. So yeah, this is an open question, kind of how to change the regex engine, and that also, I think, depends on this RFC or work relating to this RFC, which is about making backwards kind of incompatible or deprecating language features or introducing new language features, making that work over time. So if you're interested, take a look at it. But yeah, so let's go back to the question here. Right, lib.strings.split string instead. And indeed, I also don't know of a use of it with the interleaving. From a kind of data maintaining perspective or persistence perspective, I guess it makes sense, because if you would remove the match here, you would kind of lose information. And well, I mean, it doesn't really matter that much, to be honest. So yeah, we have split. It is documented here, well, in the Nix manual. Let's also briefly link that. So yeah, you can find all the built-ins documented in here. So split, built-in functions, it's right somewhere in here. And yeah, but we also, right, maybe also Noogle quickly. Here we can also find split. This is a third-party page, but it nicely puts together the built-in version of the functions and the ones in Nix packages. So we can find them both here. All right. And so I think that's about it regarding built-ins.split. Yeah, any questions about this or something you're interested in regarding this? Sounds like that's good then. All right, maybe let's take a look actually at this one here. This was opened just before the Nix Hour. And yeah, so the question is how to make a new app globally available. Once the derivation is created in result out, how is it made globally available? And how do I or anyone logged in run that derivation without having to go to that Nix shell? Right, so let's create a simple derivation. It's number 44. Let's have just a very simple one. We could even do, let's do the common thing here, which sure. Packages.hello. Sure. Okay. So now we can build this. All right. We can, I guess we can also Nix shell and then do, actually, no, this doesn't quite work. We could create, let's just for the sake of this, let's create shell.nix and let's actually use a pattern I like here. Let's do a hello equals packages.hello. We could also use an inherit here. And then we're going to use shell equals, and we're going to create a shell. Make shell, we're going to use packages in here. Allows us to populate the what make shell contains. This is the same as native build inputs. Same as native build inputs. And so here we want to get the hello package. We could create something like a scope or something, but I want to keep it simple for now. So let's just do this, move the hello up here. Let's inherit hello here then, and in here we're going to say hello. All right, and now to actually make Nix shell work with this. So if we just do this, it wouldn't work. Oh yeah, of course, there's a syntax error. Wait. Oh no, I created the shell file earlier. All right, but yeah, so this doesn't work. It needs a single derivation. And so the pattern I like to do is to import the default.nix file from the shell.nix file. And generally, the default.nix file also has an argument you can pass. I'm going to change this. And then just get the shell argument. So now if we go in here, let's just create an argument here. And right, you would have something like a system in here. And right, this wouldn't apply for flakes, of course. But yeah, then you could do system, let's say built-in stock current system. And let's make this pure for the sake of just showing how to make it pure. Or the ability to make it pure. So like this. Okay, now we can use Nix shell, and we get into shell with hello installed. But yeah, so this hello is only available on your path here. And this is a bit hard to read. I often like to do this to turn it into a more readable list. And yeah, so we can see bash is here. Also a whole bunch of these things are, well, I think some of these come from my environment, but these like bash, GNU make, find, and so on come also from the default make shell. And now let's just show you how to not get this. I believe make shell no cc does exist. Is that right? Make shell, yep, seems to be right. Now let's print the path again. And well, we don't have a C compiler anymore. Previously there was GCC and glibc in here. Now we don't have that anymore. But yeah, there's a lot of things still added by default, but there's no, these aren't very big, and generally that's fine. Yeah, so now in our, right, so we have this now available in here, but we want to somehow install it or make it right globally available. So in Nix, it's really the question, what does installing mean? Because, right, in this case, Nix shall install it for us by just adding it to the path when we enter the environment. But there's many other ways to add to this path, and that kind of generally is what it means to install something. And so, for example, we could go to our set shell configuration file. And I don't think I can edit this. This is read only on my NixOS. But we could just go in here and say, let's actually do that. So we will, I'm going to remove this. And my home manager configuration will probably complain once it gets rebuilt. But for now, that's fine. I'm going to recreate it, and I'm going to say export path equals, so by the way, don't do this, but I'm just kind of trying to show kind of ways in which this, or different ways you could imagine doing this. And so in here now, well, what is the next path to our thing? So I'm just going to do this very hackily here, but I'm going to say hello, I'm going to build it, I'm going to use no out link, and this is actually kind of a problem, but let's go for it for now. Then our path, Nix Hour 44, and the default Nix in here, dash a hello, That's the attribute we exposed for the hello package. And so this is a path to hello. This is bash in here. And then we can append this, or let's prepend this to the path, hello bin, so we can get access to all the binaries. All right. So now, I believe it might just work if I open like a new terminal and that gets sourced. Well, actually, let's open a new terminal here. And hello. Yep, that indeed works. Which hello, and yeah, we can see it points to the Nix Hour path. So it's kind of installed, but this is a bit problematic. So one of the things is that, well, a garbage collection could actually mess this up. So let's actually try this. I believe we can. So it's installed, and now let's do well, I don't want to do a full garbage collection, but what we could do is get the store path and just try to delete this. And well, we cannot delete it because it has roots. There is a workaround for this, but this is a bit of a.
You will not be able to delete it while your shell is running. That uses it.
Oh yeah, that could indeed be right. Yeah, so we are actually protected from this. Let's do this. Let's query the roots. So these are the roots which kind of keep the package alive, and indeed, we have some environments in here, some environment variables in processes that keep it alive. So okay, that's fair. But yeah, we aren't really pinning it in here, but I guess it's fine here. So yeah, well, let's keep it. But also this is kind of a problem because now let's try something else. And so what if we in our default.nix suddenly change something or break something? So like this here, let's just random syntax error. Now open a new terminal, and we can see it like complains about this because we build it every time in here, and so this is a bit of a problem. And also if we do something like let's say like a staging rebuild, so, or let's do like a cross compilation or something that takes a long time. Let's say hello is now packages cross.ar64 multi-platform, I believe. Now, if we do this, well, packages cross is not available. Oh yeah, now it would like build something when we open the terminal. That's not great. So other ways to install things. Let's actually get rid of this file again. Or actually, let's move it in here. C shell RC. All right. So the kind of very traditional way of installing something is using nix-env. So what this kind of does is it builds it and then it puts it into some directory. So let's try this. I'm gonna do -f, the current directory. So this will then evaluate the Nix expression in the default.nix. And then I believe -a for an attribute path. And hello, that's the one I want to install. And we need to pass a -i for install. Okay, apparently there was a hello in there already. I hope this didn't mess up the previous test. But yeah, so now it is installed. We can also list this here, Q, I believe. Yeah, we can see hello is installed. We can uninstall it with dash. It's actually almost nobody uses this to actually install things, so I need to really look things up here.
-e, I think.
Yeah, -e, although the long flag is called -uninstall, so it's a bit weird. But yeah, we can uninstall it. Right. Well, let's install it again and see what it does. So let's open a new terminal here. Oh, right. We need to just create an empty one for that to go away. Okay, but yeah, let's see. Hello, it's installed here. Which hello? So it comes from here. So this is apparently available in path. Let's print the path here with this. So we can see one of the things added here is this here. So this is something that Nix adds kind of in the installation, this path. And so it makes sure that whenever you open a shell, this is added. And so what nixenv does is it installs binaries into this path. So we can go in here and take a look at Nix profile. We can see this is kind of it's kind of like a sim-linked structure where, right, we have bin and we have kind of all the things that are installed with nixenv. The other parts in here all come from Home Manager. We can see this here from the long path, but the only thing that shouldn't come from Home Manager is hello here. Yeah, that comes just kind of from the path itself. Yeah, and it's not just bin, there's also other things in here. So for example, man pages are in share man, and then I believe is that man path, that is empty, although man pages are often resolved by looking at the binary path and then getting to the man path from here. But yeah, this is kind of how nixenv installs things.
I think it's hard-coded in the man wrapper.
The location, well, there's a way, so you can, we go in here and say, yeah, let's actually try this, man.nix. So let's just do, actually, let's not create a separate one. Let's do this in here. Let's say man test equals, and then let's use a call package, test.nix, like this. Then we can kind of use the same convention as in Nix packages. So in here, let's just create a simple one with like run command. All right, run command, man test, and then like this. All right, now let's create a script in here. So we're going to say out bin. We're going to echo, I mean, can just be something like bash. Let's say echo hi, a bit meta, but that's fine. And then this is a binary, so let's do, well, actually it would be kind of hard to, well, just try it script. All right, and let's also try creating a man page for this, although I don't actually want to create a man page, so let's just use the string. We also need out share man1, I believe. Okay, share man1. Now I don't, is it script.1.gz or something like this? Let me just quickly find this. Hello, what does this have? man1 hello.1.gz. Okay, that's right. So, well, let's do this for now. Okay. So we're gonna do, let's add this to the shell. Actually, we should probably use some scope pattern in here, but for now, this is fine. So just inherit man test. And then in the shell, I'm gonna use this as well. All right, now let's get into the next shell and we should have access to our script. Oh, well, this is a different script. Let's maybe give this a better name. My script. All right, and let's try this again. So next shell, my script. Permission denied, that's fair. We need to make this executable. So chmod +x out bin my script. There's various ways of doing this in a better way, but for now I want to just get it working. All right, my script, and it indeed works. Now let's try accessing the man page. And well, we get a man page, it's just kind of empty. But so this worked without doing anything with the man path, or maybe let's no, that did work indeed. But we can also break it. So if we do not add the binary here, so I'm going to comment this out and let's see what happens. So Nix shell again. Well, right, we need to actually create this path here though. So let's split this into two, make dir-p this one here. All right, so only create the man page in here. Now Nix shell, now the script won't be available. We gonna remove that, but the man page, oh yeah, the man page also isn't available. I think that makes sense. Well, so the kind of thing I want to say is that man discovers man pages from the path variable. And so it kind of takes a path and then goes like up one level, and then it goes down into like man/share/man to discover man pages. And so so the man page wasn't available now. But if we create a bin directory without even installing anything into it, it should work again. Let's try this, Nix shell. My shell here is a bit of a mess, but Nix shell, man, my script, and that works again. So even though we still don't have my script available, we didn't install any binaries, the path in here contains this path, this path, right, I guess this is the deciding thing, it contains this path, whereas if we don't have that, if we comment this out, and I'm in like 2 levels of Nix shell in here, then the path doesn't contain this, so there's no man test in here. So yeah, just kind of showing off that how man discovers man pages. It's kind of interesting. All right, but yeah, so we got distracted a bit. So how to install things? So nixenv is one way. So this is a very imperative way of installing something with nixenv. There is also a more declarative way using -r, I believe. -r and some other things. That's a bit of a hack. Let's go into something better, and that is Home Manager. So Home Manager allows you to install things in a Nix file. So let's go in here. Let's just quickly look at the docs, see if it explains it in the beginning here. Configuration example. Yeah, so in Home Manager you have this by default home.nix file in your config directory, and you can use Nix syntax to install things here. So I think I can probably make that work. I'm using Home Manager already via my NixOS system, but Home Manager doesn't need to use NixOS, so it can be used on pretty much any Unix-based distribution where Nix runs on. So that is fairly convenient. And so let's try this. Let's go into our config, and then I think it's Home Manager. It doesn't exist right now, so let's create this. And let's create a home.nix file with some contents. My username, well, it doesn't really matter in this case. Home directory, well, let's do this. And here, state version, you can read the comment if that's interesting. But yeah, we also need to install Home Manager. Actually, this should have been Nix Hour number 29 as well, apparently. But yeah, it's fine to cover things multiple times here. So let's, there's a lot of ways to install Home Manager. And actually, one way to install Home Manager would also be using nixenv itself. But yeah, I think this might be the easiest way to do it. Home Manager, well, we don't need a channel to do this. There's various ways of installing it. Maybe since it's right here, let's use a channel. Sure. So I'm gonna do this. All right, now we should have a copy of home manager available. Now this resolution here works. All right. It would have created something if it didn't exist. And it failed. This is not great. I think it might have been because in our home.nix we have this state version. And I might not be on the right version. This is very annoying. So maybe let's try something else. Well, the Nixos module, we could use a flake as well, I think. Where is it? Yes. Well, yeah, actually, I think let's not go into that. It's a bit hard to demonstrate this without kind of messing with my own configuration here too much. So yeah, please refer to the home manager docs or apparently Nix Hour number 29. And instead, I would like to take a look at some other issues. Or maybe let's conclude this a bit further. So you can install things with home manager. Home manager also, home manager uses nixenv underneath. So that's why we could see in our Nix profile in here that there's paths to home manager in here. This is an environment created by home manager containing all of the packages you declared in home manager. And so this is one way. Another way, if you're using NixOS, of course, you can use the system configuration. This would be in this configuration.nix file. We still have these old things in here. I thought I removed those a while ago. Yeah, so in here you would then say environment.system packages. I mean, that's every NixOS user will have used this when they started out using NixOS. So you can install things like this. And at any time you install something using Nix files, you need to run some command to actually make it be installed. In the case of NixOS, it's NixOS rebuild switch. In the case of home manager, it's I believe home manager switch. Or, well, I think it's not installed in my environment here. But yeah, that would be the answer. NixOS, you can also use Nix Darwin to install things on Darwin systems. This is a bit like NixOS, but it manages a Darwin machine and not like as it doesn't rebuild the entire macOS system, but it's a kind of layer on top, allowing you to manage the configuration. That's nice. And are there any other ways of installing things? I think that about covers it. Yeah, are there any questions or anything I missed regarding this? Otherwise, I think that should be good then. So maybe let's jump to something else here. So this question was asked a couple of weeks ago, also by Jan, about how to kind of declare functions in a make shell. So one of the things might be, right, so we can define environment variables in the Nix shell fairly easily. Could you also declare functions in the Nix shell easily? And so I think partially this is what's already being done. So if let's try something else here. Let's do env functions.nix. Oh, not make dir. Vim env funs.nix. All right, so run command. Let's have a run command. Sure, run command. So run command. I'm going to create a simple env funs. And so in here, we can also give the environment for to run for the underlying make derivation call. So in here, we could say, right, foo equals foo. So this is an environment variable. We can do echo foo. All right, let's build this. Well, we need to also add it to default.nix. Env funs and funs and funs. Okay, now I want to build this. So Nix build dash a dot dash a funds and funds, like this. Right, it failed. It didn't produce any output path. That does make sense. Let's just create this to make the error go away. All right, so we have access to foo in here, but what we can also do is just declare functions, I believe. So, or I guess actually not functions. So this is what happens when you declare phases as well, but we can do it like this as well. So let's say we define bar to be some script. And yes, so this is not exactly a function. Let's try a function later. So right in here we could say echo foo, or even echo the environment variable foo. So instead of doing this, we could say eval. So this is a bash built in to evaluate a string as bash. So we can say evaluate the string in bar. And if we do that, that should still, yeah, we still print the environment variable because this happens in here. And this is what happens with phases. So let's try to just show this. So we need to switch to make derivation because the run command by default kind of clears the phases and so doesn't really allow overriding of them. At least currently, hopefully that gets fixed in the future. But so env funds, so we need a name, we need some phases. So let's say, right, we need a build phase probably. Let's clear this actually. That's fine. So this, if we don't do anything, it will complain, oh, stdenv. That's fair. It should complain that there's no no source. That's also good. Unpack phase. I'm going to clear source or not require one by just setting an empty unpack phase. And the colon is bash for don't do anything. Right, but now it doesn't run the install phase, no build phase. Okay. Now, if we want to override these phases, and so right, we say something like post install. Now in here we say make dir out. Let's touch out, and that works. And this is exactly how, like the thing we just tried before as well, is also how these phases work. So internally, it well, if you go into Nix shell, we could see this Nix shell dot dash a and funds. Actually, let's get into a bash Nix shell here. Right, so we're in bash. We have access to the environment variables from in here. And so we can see post unpack, oh, actually no, post install. That's just this very string. And so what the what the phases do underneath, I believe they use this run hook function. Post install. Oh yeah, okay, that works. So run hook post install, and it tried to do this, but it couldn't. We could make this work using out equals foo, and then it should create that in the current directory, and now we have ls, we have a foo in here. So this run hook function is kind of what does that, but also, so this is using environment variables to run things, but there's also functions being defined in the phases runner. So if we go in here, packages stdnf generic, let's just take a look at what it does underneath, a run hook. So it, this is not very easy to look at. But so also post install, I don't think that's defined anywhere in here. No. Install phase. Oh yeah, install phase actually is a better example. So Nix Hour 44 and funds. So we can override post install but we can also install the entire install phase. We can also override the entire install phase. Tripping up with my words here. So instead of doing this, this also works. Let's try this. All right. And so now it's a bit interesting because now this is an environment variable. So let's actually remove this and now enter a Nix shell with this. And we can see, let's do, I believe, command, or which is command install phase. Well, this doesn't really help too much. Type. Oh yeah, here, okay. Install phase is a function. So right now it's a function, that's okay. But what if we change this to this here? All right, re-enter the shell. Type install phase, oh, it's still a function. Oh, yeah, okay, it's still a function, but it doesn't actually run this function anymore. So if we do the generic build, would be the way to run the phases manually in the Nix shell. It doesn't use this make file installed here. We can see here it tries to create the out environment variable again. And so this run hook function, I believe as well, looks at both functions defined in bash, but also environment variables. So in this case, right, the function is defined, that's kind of the default. But we also have the environment variable, which can be viewed like this. And so it looks at both of these to determine the actual one to use. All right. But yeah, so we didn't really answer the original question. I am not entirely sure if it's also possible to define functions. So extra function, this would be the function name and then the function body, and you want to have the arguments to the function.
I think you can do that in the shell hook, but
yeah, I guess, yeah, that should work. So yeah, I guess so this, right, it runs all in bash. So you could just insert that into like any phase here and define the function in there. It's a bit hacky, but it should work. So what would be an appropriate one? I don't know, maybe actually there's a way to add like additional phases. I don't remember how that exactly works, so I'm gonna take a look at the source. That should be somewhere in here. Yeah, here's kind of main phase running part. We have pre-phases. That actually sounds pretty good, pre-phases. So this is documented. I hope this is documented. Nix packages manual. Pre-phases, okay. Additional phases executed. Is there an example? There is no example. These are the only two mentions. So let's figure out how to use it. I believe it goes like this. Define functions, so we can declare our own name in here. And then we declare this as an additional phase, like this. So maybe that works. So let's take the example from the issue here. This one here. So green text, do an echo in here. Prints all the arguments. Okay, and now in the install phase, let's do echo, or actually green text foo. All right, now if we build this, I hope my terminal will print. Didn't print the color. Does it print it if I do it in here? And funds and dash check. Yeah, that prints it with color. So that would be a way to declare functions. It's not like super convenient, but I think this is not bad. And prephases is probably the nicest way of doing this. So yeah, this I think should work. Is that a satisfying answer, or any other questions? All right, there's an upvote. That sounds good. And then we also have other minor things to explain. We have a Nix shell versus Nix space shell versus Nix develop with respect to flakes and non-flakes. Right, let me give that a go. So on one hand, right, we have, maybe let's create like a small nodes dot markdown. So there is Nix dash shell. This is kind of the traditional stable CLI. Okay, we have Nix shell and then dash f. This is non-flakes new CLI or experimental CLI. Say it like this: CLI no flakes or without flakes. So you can still use the experimental new CLI but without using flakes. And then finally, if you do Nix shell without that, and then here you have some flake reference. Oh, and here let's do file. Right, then it's with flakes. So this is kind of a rough overview of kind of, I guess, just one command here, but this applies to pretty much all commands. So you have Nix dash build as well, you have Nix space build taking dash f, and you have Nix base build taking the flake reference. And notably, this one is the default, and the default flake reference is dot, like the current directory. And I got a link sent here in the channel. Let me open this. Oh yeah, this is apparently a good explanation of the differences between these. Oh, this is a shell hook, right, interpreter. Okay, so yeah, I should probably add this to the description or somewhere, but it's in there, at least in the recording. Generally, maybe I'm going to try to give a really brief overview. What I think Nix shell, Nix develop, this is, yeah, so I think Nix develop is to actually develop applications. So this is where you enter a development environment, and this is for things like, right, just before we had like the C example. So can I explain this well? I'm not sure if I can.
I think actually Nix dash shell, Nix develop is like Nix dash shell, and Nix shell actually creates a shell with arguments installed, not dependencies of the arguments installed in.
Well, even Nix develop / Nix shell wouldn't add dependencies of the direct ones, but Nix
shell only installs what you specify into your shell, not the dependencies of what you specify.
Yeah. So yeah, let's try this. I believe. So, sure. Let's use the unstable channel. So Nix base shell, and we pass, let's say, hello and OpenSSL. And all right, so we get into shell, and I notice here it gets me into Z shell. So if you look at the path, we can see only, well, all of these entries were there before. Actually, is there a pure flag here? No. Is there one? I'm not sure. Pure, impure. There does not appear to be a pure flag, which is a bit surprising. But yeah, so in here, only these entries are added. Whereas, with, if we do the same with, say, Nix develop, I'm not sure if that actually does work. So Nix develop probably just needs one argument. So let's also pass dash f. And now, yeah, it downloads Nix packages. Why does it download that again though? Actually, it should have been downloaded up here already. Well, okay, let's just go for it. So in here now, well, you'll notice we actually have a bash here. And that is because bash is the kind of default builder for these derivations. But in here, if we look at the path, we get a whole bunch of other things. And so these are, we can also see GCC in here. These are all the, oh yeah, actually, right, yeah. These are the dependencies to build the package. Whereas Nix space shell actually contain these packages themselves. It's actually not that hard. And so, but also this kind of interacts with the make shell primitive. And so in here we had a make shell in here. So make shell actually creates a derivation with these as dependencies. So well, let me make like a brief thing here. We can get, so let's say we want to get hello in a shell. Our target is hello available. We can do this either using Nix dash shell and make shell with packages equals hello. We can do this using Nix develop, and so this is kind of the same thing. So both of these should work. Or Nix space shell, and then you pass hello in here, or I guess flake reference or a file or something like that. Yeah, dash f something, or let's use flake references. Hello, like this. And Nix run, on the other hand, runs it directly for you. So if we change this to run hello, we could say, right, in there, then you can run hello, directly run hello. Here as well. Whereas this runs hello for you directly. So you can pass, I mean, yeah, this runs it directly. Let's try this. Yeah. I think this is, well, I'm gonna refer you to this post here. That looks pretty good for more details. And yeah, let's see. Where was this? Oh yeah, here, right. And right, also the flakes versus non-flakes, I think, right, this is probably the easiest one. Or it's a good distinction to make. The new CLI also doesn't support non-flakes using Nix shell dash f. And so it's kind of ironic how you can also use channels in flakes, because flakes is kind of meant to replace channels. So actually if I use this here, it will also use a channel, because I still haven't updated my Nix path to not use channels. This is on me, but yeah, so you can still use, like, even you can install something with Nix channel and then use it using the new CLI. Yeah. All right, let's see. We have a couple more minutes. Does anyone have anything to ask or wondering about clarifications? Otherwise, maybe let's take a look at this. And it was already answered with comment, but how could I put some directories in /etc? How can I link an entire folder? All right. Right, yeah, this should work indeed. And we can briefly take a look at this. So let's go to the home page. Let's go to the search page, then search for Nix's options, and we're going to look for environment.etc. All right, and so in here we can see, right, this is the main option definition, but these are the options of the submodule. So by default, you will most often see just .text, but there's many more of these. So -text allows you to assign the text of the environment of the file directly. You can also say source here. So source allows you to give a path to a file directly. So we could do, let's create a simple one here, and actually I'm going to copy this from here. So environment.etc.foo, and so we can give kind of any path we want here. We could even say home, or yeah, we could do this. And then let's do something like Nix Hour. Sure. Bit self-referential here. Then if we do, let's do this to build Nix OS, and we pass the configuration. And I want to build config.system.build.etc. Allows me to build just the etc directory. And we need to actually, this is a bit, right, I forgot source here. So source, build the etc directory. All right, and now we can, let me use t here, that's this t of the result. And we get this here, so it contains all of the files from etc, but let's look at specifically the one for foo, I believe. Oh, was it? Yeah, it should have been foo. Result. Oh, I'm struggling a bit here. Oh, it's /etc. Right. Okay, yeah, we can see here. Oh yeah, actually this is a bit interesting. So it copied the Nix Hour 44 directory into the Nix store. If you want to avoid that, so this happens because underneath it kind of does this. And this copies it into the store. If you don't want that, you need to use toString. And so this kind of allows you to make a dynamic reference to some directory in here. So if we try this again, print this, and we can see foo is linked to this very directory. Yeah, and we can also see some other options in here. You can, for example, change which user the file is owned by, UID, mode, group, GID, enable. You can disable them as well, apparently. Yeah, so I think we are about out of time, but I hope that helped a bit. And yeah, then see you again next time.